People always ask me questions about my bankruptcy. I normally frame it in the context of, oh my God, that bankruptcy, that must have been the worst thing that's ever happened to you. I mean, listen, I never want to glamorize bankruptcy because obviously in any bankruptcy situation, not only is it not very fun for the person who's gone bankrupt, there's also counterparties involved and other people who lose money in that situation, in that transaction too. But I do think it's important to get people to understand that bankruptcy is not as bad as you think it is. And it's not something that you should be scared of. Now, again, you've got to take what I say and apply it to your different times in life, your different contexts. You know, there's obviously a big difference if you're a 25-year-old who's not really earning much money and doesn't really have many assets to if you're a 55-year-old and you've got lots of assets and a good income and a family and everything else. Obviously, you're at very different stages in life, and it might be a little more of a problem going bankrupt as that 55-year-old than going bankrupt as a 25-year-old. But I think far too many people fear the bankruptcy, fear the risk of financial loss, and ultimately, don't take the chances that they need to take to be able to build the business they want and have the life that they want. Bankruptcy is something that is very recoverable from. I was about to say easy to recover from. Maybe not easy, but not as tough as you think. And the other thing I always like to try and say to people, and this is the analogy I give, and if you know me by now, you know I love a good analogy. I always like to say, I look at bankruptcy in the same way we may talk about somebody who's terminally ill. Let's say somebody's terminally ill with cancer and they've got a year or two that this horrible illness is dragging out for, and they're going through chemotherapy, they're going through lots of hospital trips, they've got sad times with the family around them, both for them, both for the family, and in the last few months they're probably lying in a hospital bed on medication every day, just waiting to die. And when they die, I don't think probably many times in those situations people go, oh, that's so sad that person's died. It's probably a blessing. Well, I'm sure it is a blessing for both the person who died and for the people around them, because it's drawn a line under that horrendous situation that they've been living. And I think of bankruptcy very much the same, because when you go bankrupt, you weren't just yesterday in a situation where everything was tickety-boo and today you've woken up and gone bankrupt. For the lead up to that bankruptcy, you've obviously had a lot of problems and a lot of stress, probably for months, maybe even for years. You've been unable to pay bills, you've been getting red letters. If you're a business, you've got staff that you've probably been losing, either because you haven't been able to afford to pay them or because they've seen the writings on the wall and they've wanted to jump ship before something's gone. And all of this is this bad build-up that leads up to the day you go bankrupt. And I honestly think that at that point you go bankrupt, it's probably a blessing for you. It's drawn a line under all of the horrible situation that you've been having, and it gives you that clean start to be able to start again. So like I said, I'm not trying to glamorize it. I'm not saying, hey, go out there and go bankrupt. And I think two things. One, if you're young and you haven't got much to lose, take those chances, because if you're going to go bankrupt, it's no biggie. You can recover and you can rebuild again. And if you're in a terrible financial situation now, don't fear the bankruptcy. Think of it as your friend, because it will draw a line under the horrible situation that you're already going through. Sometimes people say, well, I don't want to go bankrupt because it's going to fuck my credit rating. I'm not going to be able to borrow money again. Listen, if you are in a situation where you can't pay your bills, you've already fucked your credit rating anyway. So use that bankruptcy to draw a line under the financial problems, to draw a line under the mental health and stress problems, because that's another big thing as well. When you're waking up every day worrying about creditors, worrying about paying bills, you're not doing any productive work. You might think that you're scrapping around trying to find ways to get out of it, but the reality is that in 99 times out of 100, you can't get out of that situation. You're in too deep and you will never, ever be able to recover from it. So draw the line, clear the decks, regroup, sit down and look at why things went wrong for you so you don't make those mistakes again, but then take a clean start and go and make some big money on round two.